Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful morning, and I want to thank you for joining me on this morning roast. Hopefully, you have your coffee in hand as well, or if you're seeing this later, maybe you're having a little extra alcoholic drink in hand. Anyway, wanted to talk today a little bit about how to soften your horse. This is a question I get all the time. How do I best soften my horse? And this question is something that kind of you need to really break it down a little bit. But first, before we do that, I want to talk about kind of some way that I used to do it. Since I have grown as a horseman, I can certainly say that I have changed and understood a better way of doing things. And the first thing I want to kind of break down is the understanding a lot of times when we are asking our horses to soften, the basic general answer is through bends, right? Start creating more bend in the horse. Bend your horse, bend your horse, bend your horse to get them to soften. Really pull their head around. Make sure you rake your spurs into them to get them to soften. And the first thing that we need to kind of talk about is what really is soft, right? What is really getting the horse to soften? A lot of times we think that getting the horse cranks his head around to our feet or our foot in the stirrup, that's softness, really, okay? But the thing that you have to understand is in order to do that, you lose so much of the horse, okay? You lose the vital piece of what you're really trying to create, and that's balance, okay? So really, a horse only has the ability to bend about 7 to 10 degrees without losing the balance that the horse has, right? So if you kind of think about it, the way that the spine, we're not going to get too specific here, but because I'm going to keep this under 10 minutes here to answer this question. But if we kind of think about it, when the horse bends too much, what ends up happening is you get a twist to the spine. And when you get that, the horse usually, so let's say you're bending to the left, the spine will usually shift out to the right. And the shoulder has kind of two options. It can either drop and fall in on the shoulder, or it can kind of push out, okay? And it depends on each horse as an individual, whichever one he wants to do. You bend too far away, you get disconnect from the horse. You start actually pushing the hindquarters around more than you do actually softening up the rib cage. So balance is everything when you're talking about the work with a horse. So you definitely, when you're trying to quote unquote soften your horse, you don't want to lose the balance, which is just critical to your ride, okay, or to a successful great ride, or successful to having progression with your horse. So you really don't want to necessarily crank the horse's head around to get them soft. All right. So softness is not, in my opinion, about cranking their head around or doing more bend. Softness is more about understanding that balance and creating a position for them that they can truly get soft. Because here's the bottom line. Softness is merely position based. So when you start to think about getting your horse to soften, most of the time we end up creating a lot of stiffness from the sheer fact of how we ask for it and then where we're asking them to go. So a lot of times when we're asking them to come around, it starts from within how we're asking, okay? So when we ask, let's say our hands are here, I'm just trying to show in the camera here, our hands are here, we tend, if we're wanting to go to the right, we're going to pull kind of straight back here. So we kind of pull from this direction. When we're pulling from this direction, what we end up doing is we create kind of a twist in the horse's poll. And when we create that twist in that poll, guess what? It's connected to the cervical spine all the way through the back. And so what ends up happening is as soon as you get this twist, you end up getting imbalance right away. Now with that imbalance, think about it. Actually, you know what? Let's back up. Forget the balance for a moment. Let's think about even what this twist does. Imagine sitting right there where you are right now. Imagine cranking your head like this and then trying to look behind you. How far can you really go? You don't have that ability, right? You have a greater ability to turn your head more left and right from this perspective, not from this perspective, right? And if you're wanting to really do it, to look behind you, being able to open yourself up is critical to this, right? So Softness is merely position-based. If I'm asking my horse to get in this position, how in the hell do you ever feel that you're going to get that horse to ever be soft? You can't. And that's the biggest piece of advice here, is you're not going to get him soft when you try to crank him in this position. So what's really important is the way that you ask, right? Have you ever heard that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it? This is something I get in trouble for all the time. It's the way that you ask. So instead of going from kind of this direction and pulling, what you want to do is try to get the horse to come out. Now you can do this without your hands looking like a chimpanzee up there. You can do this by asking the horse to come out to the side, and you can start to open that flexion a heck of a lot easier. So you're really looking for flexion in that positive direction, not in a crank direction. If you start to see that head twist, you're not going to be able to go much farther without that horse starting to create stiffness. So again, I'll say it one more time. Softness is position-based. So if you are now not cranking this way, you're opening the door here from this perspective, you can now get a horse that will instantly become soft to you, okay? Now, this is kind of that thing is if you create a position, or if you allow there to be the correct position, the stiffness issue that we all talk about will literally just go away. It'll just go away. So people think, oh, I've softened my horse. No, you've just found the position. You found the correct position that your horse can actually be soft in. So you've allowed that horse to be soft, okay? So you start creating that position in the way that you do it, and you will start instantly changing that horse for the better. So flexion needs to be only about 7 to 10 degrees if you want it to have true balance through the body, and you want to make sure that you're opening them up correctly. Bringing your hands up here is not going to help the horse. Now, there is some validity, and I'm not going to go into grave detail, some validity if you can have supporting rein, if you bring your hands up. If you have supporting rein to keep the pole straight and you're trying to ask for a specific maneuver, sometimes that can be beneficial. Not often, by the way, but I'm just covering my bases when I say these things. So essentially, create that flexion, 7 to 10 degrees, and you're going to have a horse that can actually be soft to you. Remember this saying, softness is merely what? Position-based. All right. Hopefully that kind of helps you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you right here next time on our morning roast. Have a great day, guys.